What's going on, Ghosts and Ghouls? It's Montavious back with the Empty Crypt, and today we are joined by a legend in his own right, Christopher Cox. Man, how the hell are you?
I am doing good. Thank you very much for having me on the Empty Crypt. I'm excited to talk about horror.
For sure, man. And no, thank you for, I know you're a busy man, and just for you taking time out of your day to chat with me for a little bit means the world. So, for people who may not know exactly who you are, what is it that you do?
Well, I'm a filmmaker. I write, direct, edit, produce, just all that stuff. I'm just a homegrown independent filmmaker. I started out on YouTube as a kid. I made my YouTube channel back in 2008 when I was 11 years old. And then a couple days after I turned 12, I uploaded Nerf War the Candy Bar. And from there on, it all changed. I became the Nerf Kid. I was uploading Nerf Wars and action stuff, Nerf reviews. Like I just became the Nerf Kid. And some of these videos, they got millions of views. Nerf War the Candy Bar is still my number one most viewed video, although it's about to be surpassed by Don't Look Away. Don't Look Away has been creeping up for the past few years. But it's crazy. I mean, I was 12 years old when all this happened, and YouTube was still kind of starting out. It wasn't what it is now.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, I did that for a while. And then once I was graduating high school, I knew I was going to be pursuing film. I grew up in Maryland, but wanted to move out to California, study film out there in Hollywood, LA, all of that. And I was like, it's time for me to move on from Nerf. I don't want my audience to keep asking, when's the next one? It's like, I honestly, I'm not interested in doing Nerf anymore. I want to move on to just films as a whole. And announced I would be doing two final ones. I did them and then went off to college. And during college, made a horror short film called Don't Look Away. That went viral, completely out of my control. I was 19 years old, made a film for $50, and it blew up to be this big thing. And honestly, even before then, horror, it was always my favorite genre. Like, I just loved the genre. I loved making horror films. And then recently, a couple years ago, I was like, all right, I'm coming back. And, Don't Look Away. It's still big. I'm gonna be a horror guy now. I'm gonna make some horror films, and that's what I do today.
For sure, man. I love that. And just kind of like taking a step back. I mean, it's so crazy. Like when you think about, you went from, a child making videos about Nerf wars and all that stuff, and now you amassed over 500,000 subscribers on a huge platform. Like YouTube is now the new cable, if you will. Like it's definitely
Yeah.
a monster. So when did you know that you wanted to get into film?
Oh, I mean, first film I ever made, I was 9 years old. It just was always a thing. Even before, like, I just love telling stories. That's really what I love above all. Like, I was making comic books and stuff in elementary school and bringing
Mm.
them to school and selling them and stuff. Like, I had a little bag full of coins that I would bring home. Like, I made this much money, hell yeah. Uh, and then, yeah, when I was like 9 years old, borrowed my film or my parents' camera. It was like a tape recorder and just made some films. And then kept doing it. Like I also began acting at the age of 10, and I acted in theater and film. And that allowed me to really explore just like the industry. Because at a young age, I was acting professionally. The Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., it's kind of like the big theater capital in Maryland and a big one in the US. And I got cast in a show there, and the show did so well, it moved to Broadway. So I went with them. And at the age of 12, I was living in Manhattan on Broadway. And
Wow.
yeah, like I got exposed to so much of the entertainment industry, more theater, but it was like throughout all of that, I was also making the Nerf videos, and it just kind of kept cropping up in my head where I'm just like, I mean, I've been doing this forever. It's what I love. And then just what do I want to focus on? And by the age of like 14, I was like, okay, I want to do film. I want to like make films. That's my passion.
Nice. Now, so at 14, you realized you wanted to do film. Now, what kept you engaged into making film? Because I mean, tons of people nowadays, if you own a camera, you can make something. I'm not saying it's going to be good, but you
Yeah.
can make something. So, what kept you, on that line to learn and to keep wanting to be in this industry?
Well, I mean, definitely the recognition from YouTube audiences was a big one because before Nerf War Candy Bar, I was making films for 3 years and either burning them on DVDs or just uploading them to YouTube and never expecting any views whatsoever. And it was just something that I liked doing. I just wanted to tell a story because I loved watching movies, of course, and TV shows and all that. And I would replay all these great scenes in my head. Of course, when I was a kid, there's always the fight scenes. I'd replay them in my head, all these epic moments where I'm like, wow, that was so cool. And so that I would want to recreate that. And I think it had to do with sharing moments and then evolving into sharing stories and just concepts and ideas. Like I just want people to see them. And so even when like after Nerf, that was tough because I was basically telling my audience, hey, you all kind of subscribe to me probably just for Nerf, but I'm done with that. And that's tough. That is that no business person would tell you to do that for managing a YouTube channel, but I've never really been a YouTuber in that sense. I've always been a storyteller, filmmaker, and I just happen to post it online. But the recognition definitely boosts that. It keeps you excited to go to the next idea and expand on it because it's like, okay, people liked this. Okay, what exactly did they like about it? How can I expand on that? How can I push it further? And then even when things aren't going well and, the views aren't going where they are, sometimes I just have an idea and I put all of my power into making that idea reality. It just something kind of takes over me.
Nice, man. And so, how was that transition? I mean, obviously, it's worked very well for you, but how did your previous audience take to, you know, the kid that they saw grow up? Now he wants to do horror films, right? So, how did they respond to you changing your, just your craft a little bit? Same thing, but just changing up your content. How did they take to that?
There are two different audience members. The majority of the 500K subscribers, I do believe, are the casual audience, the ones who watched a Nerf video when they were a kid, subscribed. I'm sure there's a fair amount that forgot that they're subscribed to me, or maybe they just haven't been on the YouTube channel a couple years or whatever. But I do like notice when I upload a video now, there will be a couple of subscribers, and it's like, well, I'm focused on what I've been focusing on for the last few years. But maybe yeah, they were subscribed for Nerf and they kind of forgot or whatever. But the casual audience definitely didn't like that. They were kind of upset because it's like, well, that's why I subscribed to you. So, But then there's the dedicated audience, and they're smaller, but they follow me. They just want to see what I do. They are inspired by my story of starting out as a kid, building this YouTube channel, pursuing film, making, like Don't Look Away is so Don't Look Away is weird because I've been recognized in like not in public because I'm not in the film, but like when I tell people about Don't Look Away, there's a good chance they've seen it already.
Yeah,
And it's like, yeah, I made that. I was 19 years old, just made that for college class. And
with 50 bucks.
$50 because everyone worked for free. We're all students. The $50 went to food and the costume for the figure. That was it. And it's weird how like magic can kind of happen like that. Where of course I didn't plan on it to go viral, but something happened, and that's like something that I'm secretly known for. Like people are aware of that. And that's the kind of story that I think that dedicated audience, they'll follow me anywhere. They can certainly kind of say like, okay, maybe you're going in a weird direction here. Or I prefer this past film that you did for these reasons, but they just love hearing from me. If I don't upload for 6 or 9 months, they'll be wondering where I am. And then when I upload, they'll be so excited that I'm just uploading it all, and then seeing the reactions, stuff like that's the core audience there. I love them. Like they have followed me for so long that it keeps me going.
Nice, man. That's beautiful. And so, with Don't Look Away, I know you or anybody else associated with the project thought that this is where it would be today, especially like blowing up as much as it did. Why do you think people gravitated to it so much?
Well, I know that there's some sneaky shit with oh, can I cuss?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Open
Okay,
floor.
cool. There was sneaky shit with the algorithm because a month after I uploaded that film, it had stagnated. It got the normal amount of views that I did back then, and then suddenly one day blew up. And I also found out about the Don't Look Away challenge that was big on YouTube at the time, where people would make compilation videos of like a shark coming at the camera or, jump scare stuff. It was just like, okay, it's a little challenge. You challenge your friend to watch it and, don't look away. So if you get scared, oh, you lost a challenge. And
Yeah.
somehow, Don't Look Away with the thumbnail, especially, it's got a creepy thumbnail that got mixed into that algorithm and people were clicking on it. And what I know people stay for is when you watch the film, it doesn't look like a couple of college kids made it for $50. It doesn't look like that at all. Part of that is the quality. The cinematographer did an amazing job. The location was the cinematographer's parents' house. That was a big ass house. That was a nice looking place. So, and that, like that's sort of the sneaky things. If you're starting out doing film, location, you've got to shoot in places that don't look like where would a college kid shoot? A forest, his apartment, instead this big ass house. I just got lucky, just knew someone. So
That's true, man.
stuff like that.
And what was the idea behind Don't Look Away?
It's the idea too that people gravitate towards because they love exploring and trying to theorize what it all means. Because what inspired me, my friend told me about the story that he saw online, and it turns out that it was called The Watcher, and it was a text story on an app called Hooked. I never heard of any of that. All I know is that a friend of mine was telling me a cool story. And in the story, this girl sees this guy standing outside her window. I forget if the guy's in a suit and bag. I don't think so. I think it was just a guy. But the guy's staring at her and she calls her dad, or she's texting him. I think it's a text story. She's texting her dad and she tells him about the guy. And the dad immediately asks, like, sort of, wait, okay, so what is he doing? So clearly the dad knows. And the dad says, don't look away. And that was it. That was the end of the story from what I heard. And I was like, well, that's cool. That's like a good jumping off point. All right, let me expand on that. Let me have like a little family dynamic, brother and sister. Okay, divorced parents. Dad's gonna be coming home in a little bit. Weird guy outside. The appearance of the figure, I wanted to make it something fresh. Suits have been done a lot. Suits like Slender Man, that's classic. But
Yeah,
the over the head and chains, I was inspired by the chainsaw zombie Magini, is what they're called in Resident Evil 5.
yeah,
Have you ever played
yeah,
that
yeah.
game? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
scary chainsaw guys. They got a sack over their head and then their eyes peeking out through the hole. Ugh, freaky, the chains and everything. I love it. So that was sort of what inspired me to like craft the figure. And then from there, it's like, all right, something's up with that. Like that visual alone, like there's a story there. But I'm not going to tell anyone because it's just this weird mystery. And then it's the figuring out, okay, wait, don't look away. Why? What happens if she looks away? That's the first question. So as I'm writing the story, I'm like, all right, well, I need an excuse for why she turns away. Maybe she thinks don't look away. So, maybe you have to be looking at him. So, okay, Jim's already here. All right, you're looking at him and I'll go lock the doors and stuff. Kind of silly. The doors weren't already locked, but um, and then suddenly she comes back and it's gone. But then it's not gone for him. And then we're getting into like the fun lore sort of like, okay, wait, what are the rules? And that's what I think people really gravitate towards is just figuring out what are the rules and how do I defeat this thing? That's a
Yeah.
fun part.
No, definitely, because I definitely gravitated to it because it's like, damn, like, and you don't realize until like, the boy is like, no, he's still here. Like I'm still
Yeah.
looking at him. And she's like, no, I don't see it. Totally freaky. Like it makes goosebumps. It's I definitely think that's something there. Now, have you guys ever thought about doing a feature with that?
I have considered it. I have considered it, and I definitely want to make a feature film at some point. That's definitely always film dream.
Yeah.
Um, because also feature films they make money. That's where like okay, you're actually building a career out of this. Because right now I make shorts because they're actually possible. Like I would not be able to make a feature film right now. But shorts, I'm able to make them, and while they don't make money, they still grow. They still have a presence. You're not going to always get a Don't Look Away, but we're Not Safe Here, a film that I made 2 years ago, continues to do
Mhm.
pretty well. The most recent film that I made is doing pretty well, The Noise Next Door. So that's something where I'm just trying to grow. I'm trying to get the ball rolling. Right now, my channel is getting there in that algorithm for known to be horror. So keep going because horror shorts are very popular. There are a lot of them on YouTube that have millions of views. And
Oh yeah.
I love horror so much. And, my focus isn't I want to make films that get views, but that is a fact that like I would like to eventually reach because that's how I can continue to grow and
Mhm.
grow, and just get better at what I'm doing as well.
So where do you feel like you need to be in order for you to be in a position to where you can make a feature film? Because I think, I mean, just looking at your content and then like some of your audience base, like I mean, people definitely want you to, but you're not. You feel like you're not quite there yet. So where do you feel like you need to be in order to make that happen?
There's definitely networking that I need to do. With the Noise Next Door, I began that because I worked with a lot of new people, and that's sort of the best way that I have found with meeting people is working with them and getting onto film sets, getting to know different people. Because, like we talked about, Don't Look Away, that location was all because I knew the cinematographer, and the cinematographer had chill parents that let us shoot at his place. So it is, they say it with Hollywood and everything, it's people you know. And that's something that I'm I need to continue growing. I need to assemble my star crew. And especially, I need to find a producer because I produce all my films right now and I spend all my money on them. I have Patreon, which helps the dedicated audience that goes to the Patreon. They help support me. I appreciate them so much. But feature films, they cost so much more. There's a lot of money there. So where's the funding going to come from? That's questions that I need to find the answers to, and it's likely finding the right people. So finding the right people is definitely the thing that will help me start realizing, okay, I have a producer now, and I've told him about my idea, and he likes it. Okay, maybe we can get this ball rolling to actually make a feature film. That would be like the first major thing.
For sure. Now, have you entertained the thought of like maybe a crowdfunding, like Indiegogo or Kickstarter, or do you just rather have the private investor to go ahead and make the feature?
I mean, definitely the crowdfunding would be smart, especially because I am a person who I really want to retain creative control over what I do, because I hear horror stories and it's classic. And I also think, a lot of audiences nowadays, they tend to say like Hollywood's collapsing or whatever, if movies aren't as good as they were before. And,
Yeah,
obviously there's all kinds of horrible arguments about that where it's about political stuff. But to me, I see the disconnect between the artists creating the film and the development executives in charge of the funding and the studios. There's a
yeah,
disconnect there because one side is there thinking about the money. How do we make money off of this? How do we cut costs? How do we make this efficient? The other side is that passionate creative voice that's just going and inspired and trying to craft something. And of course, both sides are important. You can't have just this side all the time because you can expand too far. You can go too far in places. You can not have people say no because sometimes you do need a person to say no in order to learn and grow. But then also this side, I think at times has too much control. And that's where that creative spark of a movie, that movie magic is being slipped away because it's mostly like a committee deciding how the film is made. And the truth is, there are amazing films out there. They're just not advertised. You need to look for them. It's
that's true.
small indie filmmaker people that are still creating that magic that people claim to be missing. It's
Mm,
still out there. So with crowdfunding, that would be like the best way probably for at least me to retain a lot of my creative control. But as well, I don't think I'm there yet to be able to raise, I don't know, minimum 100K or whatever. Like, I'm not making a paranormal activity or a Blair Witch project where it's found footage and I can save money on stuff like that. Like, I would be making like a feature, obviously low budget, but
mm.
low budget nowadays is kind of like $1 million. That's a
Yeah, I
lot
would
of
say it's like
money.
2 million bucks. Yeah, it's still pricey.
So I'm definitely not there yet with crowdfunding. I would not be able to raise, even 100,000, but keep making shorts, keep growing the audience. If I got several horror shorts with millions of views, I'll start experimenting that. Or as well, the Patreon. If the Patreon keeps growing and next thing you
Hmm.
know, the Patreon is paying for the shorts now, okay, then that's another step of like, okay, I'm getting closer to that feature.
For sure, man. No, that's awesome. So, what does it take exactly for you to, make your shorts? Like, as far as I know, you got to hire the talent and all that good stuff. But like, relatively, how much does it cost? Like the funding to make a short?
The last three shorts that I made, and they all ended up being 12 to 13 minutes long, they all cost roughly 5,000 each. That was sort
Oh,
of what it ends up being. Most of the money just goes to paying cast and crew and then location. That's pretty much where most of the money goes to. And the way that the process works, I mean, I have lots of ideas. I'm always writing them down, outlining the ones that I really like, and then if I'm really committed to one, then I finally open final draft and I write a script. And chances are, if I'm writing the script, I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready to like really start the process. And for me, I officially know I've begun the process of making a short when I post to Backstage, looking for the
mm,
cast, looking for any new crew. I contacted my past crew members that I've worked with for The Noise Next Door. Is a lot of new people, so I did Backstage postings for crew members as well as cast. And that's when I know, like, okay, it's out in the ether now. The script is uploaded now. People are looking at it. Process has begun. We're in pre-production stage right now, and that's how it
no.
begins.
See, I was expecting a much larger, number because looking at your shorts, I mean, the cinematography is nice, camera angles. beautiful, lighting's pretty good. I mean, just from my taste, they look very, high quality, man. So you spending just 5,000? I gotta say, you guys are definitely stretching that money some way somehow, but it looks fantastic. So kudos to you and your team. So with
Yeah.
that being said, so which short that you've made? Obviously, I know Don't Look Away is probably going to be your baby, right? But like, if you had to choose, which short that you created is your favorite?
Noise Next Door. It's the most recent one that I made. Uh,
Mhm.
Generally, it goes whatever's my most recent one is my baby
Really?
because, and I've talked about this before, and you just use the phrase like I kind of liken making films to being like a parent in a weird way. You're raising this child that you have a view of. You go through the pre-production stage of like giving birth to the child and raising this baby, and then you're in production, you're shooting, so now your kid's kind of going off to school, like, okay, a lot of other people now are taking over for this, so I've trained you as well as I can, hopefully you do well. And then post-production is like, okay, you're in high school now, you're about to enter the real world, I can give you as much advice as I can, I can edit as much as I can, but eventually I have to accept that you're grown up now and publish you online, you're off in the world now, you take on your own life. And sometimes you have a weird thing where like you don't look away. Like I finished that baby, raised him, sent him out, done, right? And then a month later, I'm like, oh my God, he's a star. You know? So
Proud parent moment for sure.
yeah, yeah. So that's why pretty much anytime I'm making a film, it's my favorite one because I'm pouring everything I can into it. The reason why The Noise Next Door is my favorite, though, is I do think I just got better at a lot of aspects that I was lacking in the past. I think that shot composition, especially shot choice, I think I was lacking a bit, especially with the differences of color and look for the different scenes. Sweet Dreams and We're Not Safe Here are kind of two notes. They're either We're Not Safe Here is two notes. It's the campfire scene, the tent scene. Visually, about the same. There's not a lot of shot difference. Abby's Monster had a lot more fun with the shots. I did a lot more different shots and stuff, moving around, changing the tilt and whatever, like, using this single room as much as I can so it doesn't get boring. But visually, we're in one room the entire time. So, one note visually. With The Noise Next Door, we're going all kinds of different, even though we're just in an apartment in a hallway for the whole film, we're changing time of day, we're changing the atmosphere, the look, the color. It's always, we're always moving. There's variety. And that's something
Mhm.
I think I was lacking in the past. So that was something I was very proud of. And then I do think I really like the messing with people's minds aspect. Psychological horror is my favorite.
Yeah,
It's just my
I
favorite.
definitely, you could tell for sure.
Yep. Yep. And The Noise Next Door, I think I got pretty good at like messing with people's heads and just, playing with their expectations as well. Because pretty much anyone who watches that film, they immediately assume what the main character is assuming, which is, okay, this is like a domestic dispute. This guy's probably abusing his wife. And
Yeah.
that's where like, okay, good, good. I'm able to like get people to assume this thing and believe it. So now I can mess with them and show that actually it was something else. And that's always what I'm kind of trying to play around with story
Which
structure.
I have to say took me for a loop because I mean you did a great job with that because yeah, I mean you see the bruises, you see them come to the door, you see the bruises, like, okay, yeah, something's definitely going on here. I don't know what's going on, but it's definitely something. And so you have a concerned neighbor who hears all this stuff and he's like, yo, I gotta help. And lo and behold, like something totally when he was calling the apartment, and I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it yet, so go check it out. The Noise Next Door right now on YouTube. But when he was making that phone call, and you just, yeah, no, there's
Mm-hmm.
no completely freaked, and then the door opens. Oh,
Yeah.
completely freaked out. Like I'm like, this is crazy. But I have to say, my favorite one that I saw from you was Abby's Monster because I'm a father myself, or I'm a parent, and it was like parents get caught up being busy and all this other stuff, but like especially when the little girl was like, "Mommy, there's a monster on my bed," and it's like actually the dude. It messed with me so bad. I'm like, oh my God. It was crazy. So again, all the stuff that you created with the psychological horror, like you're someone who like where does this stuff come from, man? Because I feel like you got to kind of play in your own mind a little.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like Ari Aster is a great example where it's like, what happened to Ari to have all these horrible, horrible thoughts and ideas, and he makes these messed up movies. I mean, in college, he did well, the strange thing about the Johnsons, if you've ever seen that movie. Dude was in college when he made that. What the hell? So that is a funny thing. Like, where do all these crazy ideas come from? Um, I mean, there was like a chapter in my life from ages like 10 to 13. I watched every horror movie I could. I just got addicted to it. I remember one of the first horror movies I ever wanted to watch, this just shows like, okay, clearly like there was not as much nurture for this. So some of it was my nature to just pursue horror. I'm 5 years old. My parents take me to the mall. We're going into Spencer's. We don't go in the back. We're just in the front, you know.
Yeah,
But the front of Spencer's, and I see a Chucky doll up high, and he's got all the like scars and stuff. And I'm like, "Mommy, what's that?" And my mom's like, "Oh, that's Chucky, a doll from a horror movie." And she was like, and I'm like, "Oh, I want to watch that movie." She's like, "You're not watching that movie." That stuck in my head forever. I kept thinking about it. I kept asking my mom, "I'm 6 years old now. Can I watch it? No. I'm 7. Can I watch it? No. I'm 8 now. Can I watch it? No." But then, my dad would be scrolling around TV. He'd actually, oh, there's Child's Play right there. And I'm sitting with him. And I remember it was the batteries scene when the mom opens the batteries and there's no batteries in the doll. And the doll like turns around. It's like, oh, whoa. And I remember that freaked me the hell out at 8 years old. I was like, whoa. And it just stuck with me. And then eventually find out what YouTube is at the age of like 10. And back then, people just uploaded entire movies onto YouTube, like in 10-minute increments. So I would
yeah,
sneak home after school, like an hour before my parents got home. I'd sneak into my room and I'd be watching Child's Play. Um, and then my dad walked in one time and caught me. He was like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, Child's Play." He was like, "Does your mom know?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Well, let's keep it that way." And that
for
was it.
sure. Yeah,
It just stuck with me. So I watched every horror movie I could. I love absorbing it. What I love about horror, because there are people who don't like horror because they don't like being scared. I
Mm,
like being scared. I love it. I love adrenaline. I love roller coasters. I want to go skydiving. There's this rush, and that's what I love getting from movies, and especially horror movies. It's just that like feeling. And I know that, there's different ways to reach that, but I also love the questioning my own sanity. The sort of thing
mhm.
where I'm watching a movie and then suddenly I realize, wait, it's something else. What? That's so cool to me because the unpredictability. And
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of these dark horror ideas come from because I'm just like thinking of like, what would freak me out? Okay. All right. I can use that.
For sure, man. So you would say Child's Play was the movie that cultivated, your inner horror to
It,
make
it
it.
was it was probably the earliest sign of it of like,
Mhm.
okay, a five. I mean, think about it. The Chucky doll with the scars and everything. 5-year-old boy is like, what's that? I want to see it. I want to watch that movie. Most kids, you show that doll, they're gonna look away. they're
Yeah,
not gonna they're not gonna want to watch that movie. But I wanted to. I wanted to so badly. So that's like an interesting thing where, okay, did it give me nightmares? Yeah. Did all these horror movies give me nightmares? Yeah. When I watched Jaws, it's blurry in the background, but I have the Jaws poster right there. Maybe if I can. Jaws, there we go.
yeah,
Woohoo.
yeah. We see it.
Yeah. Jaws was another one. 8 years old, watched it at night alone by myself. My parents said it was a bad idea. It was a bad idea, but I love it. I don't know.
I gotta agree with that. I think Jaws is. I mean, I was always terrified of like Candyman, right? I was scared of like looking
Yeah.
in the that always scarred me. But Jaws, I have to say, and this cut off note, was the only movie I was scared to get in the pool at night. You ever get in a pool and like close your eyes and just kind of like just think like there's a shark in here?
I was afraid of the water for like a decade and a half after watching Jaws. It crippled the ocean, especially. Like just stepping in the ocean, I'm just like, okay, it's up to my waist now. A shark could fit here. It just,
Yeah, no, it's terrifying, terrifying, man. So, just want to wrap things up with you for sure. I don't want to keep you too long. Now, what is some advice that you could give to aspiring filmmakers?
I've been making videos recently giving advice, and I have a
Mm,
video of 5 tips for first time filmmakers. But a number one piece of advice is just keep making films. You can sit around and think about your ideas as long as you want, but until you actually make something, you're not a filmmaker yet. And once you've made one, you're gonna then want either you realize that was hell, I don't want to do that again, and then you get your answer. Okay, maybe you don't want to do film, cool. Or you go, okay, that was hell because it's always gonna be hell, but okay, I like what I got there. I could do better there. All right, let's make another one again. Let's keep going. And that's how you get better. You only get better by making more films, meeting more people, learning from experience. That's the biggest advice that I can give.
Nice. Now, would you recommend people go to school as such as yourself, or should people who just have a passion for something, just kind of just go for it, take that leap, start small?
Film school is mainly useful for building connections and getting to play with the toys, essentially. You're not going to own all this equipment, but the school will provide equipment. So then you get to play with the bigger toys a bit and start increasing the scale a bit, and especially when you meet people, because the other mistake you kind of make early on, okay, you don't have any money to spend, so you're going to be doing a lot of the work yourself, but the truth is you are not going to be great at every single thing. You have to meet people who are experts, or at least much better at a certain thing than you are. I write, direct, and edit, but I definitely should not be doing all three of those forever. I've never believed that I could do cinematography. That's like, no, I'm gonna let someone else do that. That's not my thing. And that's important to understand. And so film school is really good for that. But film school is more of a tool, a sort of way to meet people. It's not, oh, I majored in film. Now I'm a great filmmaker. No, no, no. It's all about your experience, how you use the lessons that you've learned. So it can be good, can be useful, but just understand that film school is more of a tool, a utility that you can use.
Gotcha. Okay, man. So, where can people go and check you out and stay up to date with what you're currently working on and things like that?
So, YouTube channel is where I always upload all my stuff. I'll do community post updates and everything. So, Christopher Cox, just my name. That's my home base basically. If you want to be a little bit ahead of other people, Patreon, my Patreon as well is where I keep like the really dedicated audience that are supporting me in my films up to date, and they know stuff for everyone else. And yeah, those are like the primary places. I'm not a big social media guy. I kind of just stick with like if I have something to say, I'll say it. I'm
For
not
sure.
I'm not going to be posting all the time, but when I come back, it means I have something to show. So get ready.
For sure, man. And just last question before we wrap up here. Now, if people wanted to get in touch with you as far as like, filming opportunities or bringing you on a project, can people reach out to you for that? Or,
Oh,
where's it?
definitely. Definitely. I would love to work with people. I also, for the next future films, I'm looking for people to join on the crew who are looking to get experience. But yeah, definitely contact me. The business email on YouTube is a good way to do that. You can also look me up on other social media. I tend to respond to Instagram a little bit every now and then. And Instagram is just Christopher Cox Film. And that's like my tag everywhere. It's just Christopher Cox Film or Christopher Cox. So you just look that up everywhere. But definitely the email would be like the fastest way to get to me because I check it.
All right, man, for sure. Well, sir, it has been a pleasure having you here on the Empty Crypt. And here, I'm definitely a fan of you. I can't wait to see what else you're going to bring us on YouTube. And hopefully one day we go ahead and see that feature film. So, yeah, man. So, anything else you want to say in closing to your fans or just horror fans out there?
Um, no, I mean you had great questions. This was very great. You hosted a wonderful interview, and it was really fun exploring my past and everything. And I would definitely love to appear on another one in the future and talk more about horror. It's
Oh,
fun. I love it.
for sure, man. We'll definitely have to bring you back on after you make your feature film because I want to see the comparisons from
Mm.
short to a feature. So definitely, we'll stay tuned for that one.
Okay, okay. And to the audience as well, check out The Noise Next Door. Most recent film uploaded a couple weeks ago. That's my mission statement right now. That is what I'm capable of. Very proud of it.
For sure, man. I'm gonna make sure I drop that below so people can go check it out. All right, man. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you later.
See you later. Thank you.
All right.